Saying justice is different in every situation. By adding the word in to justice, you make one of the worst words in the human language, which is injustice. Justice is not something to be taken lightly. If you think that somebody has committed a crime, whether like in this case we're talking about like on-campus justice, if you think somebody's committed a crime, injustice would be to just assume that they've done the worst of the worst instead of giving them a chance like of reasonable doubt. So, like I said, justice, it takes work. You can't just have it. You have to examine your facts, you have to know what the situation was, and in order to provide a reasonable punishment, you have to take into consideration, did the person know that what they were doing was bad? Did they purposefully do it? Did they hurt someone else? Did they hurt themselves? Like, what was going on?
That because of the work that I do here, I think of the sense of the community and that how we all have a responsibility to try to keep things in balance to the best that we can. That when something goes wrong, that we have a process that's already been planned out, that there's consistency and fairness, and that the process has a good foundation so that when someone is wronged or if something has gone wrong, that there are fair measures that we can take to try to correct that situation, potentially hold someone responsible for decisions that they've made to hurt the community or someone else, and then make sure that we address the community.
Is people being treated fairly and one set of rules for everyone?
I'll go from like the point of like an RA to a resident. So if one of my residents, they know the rules, they've been given the student handbook, they know this is a wet building, so they know you're allowed to have alcohol, but you're not allowed to be belligerently drunk, be self-destructive, harmful to property, to people, whatever. You have to be responsible in your drinking. They know that you're not allowed to smoke anything inside our four walls. If I go to my residents and I see them violating a direct rule, then my sense of justice will tell me I have to write them up for it, and then I'm going to hand it off to Campus Life, who's going to give them the appropriate punishment, which is outlined in the student handbook. When it gets kind of iffy is when it's above my head. If something is above my grade, I can pass it off to a higher member of Campus Life. Sometimes I don't know why they make certain decisions. I do know that usually it's very fair. When it's something like a drug violation, it's going to be your fault because you have something directly illegal on campus.
Our system of justice, I guess ours is based on the Student Code of Conduct, which guides us when there's a violation in our community. It gives us the steps to take to help educate our students about what may or may not have happened. And certainly the most important part of that is the rights and responsibilities of the student, that this isn't a court of law, that they do have certainly the right to understand the process, the right to be heard throughout the process, the right to appeal any decisions. And so I think that that's our quote-unquote system of justice here on campus.
Sure, because what it's trying to do is level the playing field for people to have opportunities and have a chance to do as well as other people have done.
The RA makes it fair, which is hard because that means that it depends on the area. Because there have been RAs in the past who, as an RA myself, I have strongly disagreed with their sense of justice. Personally, I try to maintain like a middle point where I will respect people who want to be a little bit louder on the weekend, but I will also respect people later on in the night who need to sleep and need to have their time of rest. So at least on the ground troops like front lines, it's fair only if the RA is fair. Higher up, our pro staff really tries to keep with the handbook rules. So it's much more written out what they have to do. There are a lot of less like judgment calls, I think, on their part. So I think it's fair in the sense that they're treating everybody equally.
I think our system here on campus is fair because it's based in educating our community members. It's not punitive by nature. Instead, I think from the moment a student walks in to one of those meetings, we're working really hard to help them understand why a behavior or a decision may not be a positive one when you're living on campus and when you're here to be a student. And so I think we very much focus on the educational component and try to be fair to our students to be sure that they recognize their role and responsibilities and the rights through the process. It's important that they feel like they've been treated justly.
I think most people don't understand EOF. I've heard terms like EOF students get a free ride. There are no free rides. EOF students get free books. EOF students don't get free books. What happens is in your package, you take out student loans to pay for your books. So you aren't getting anything for free. And you're required to still maintain the same grade point averages and do the same amount of work as everybody else. So EOF is not a free ride. It's a student support service program to help, again, level the playing field of students at the institution so that everyone has an opportunity to get a degree.
I think that there should be like a second chance system. There aren't a lot of warnings, especially for like more serious crimes. I'm not talking like people hurting other people, but like alcohol violations, less so drug violations because that's literally against the law. For an alcohol violation, there isn't really like a, okay, we warned you, like don't ever let this happen again. It's kind of like a, you mess up once, you get fined. Just like that, there's nothing else. I personally think that there should be like, not even like every year, but like over your college career, like if you mess up once, you should get a warning first because like some people just make mistakes. Especially with students who are caught at other people's parties, because I know that's kind of an issue of concern sometimes, like when an RA busts a party and people just went, maybe they weren't drinking, but they were just there. Sometimes you have to write them up because they were there, and they'll get fined or like punished just as harshly as a person who was hosting the party. So I think that like in a situation like that, you should take into consideration.
A lot of complaints that people have about EOF, I never hear. What you're saying right now isn't something I've heard in a while. Anyone who asks me about the program, I'm more than willing to tell them about it. The reality is there are a lot of different ways of getting into Fairleigh Dickinson. It's not just EOF. We have FIS, we have the honors program, we have all types of, we have athletics. We have different ways of people being here. So for people to single out a program, oftentimes it's their problem. If they come to me with a question, I'll gladly answer it. But there's a lot of misconceptions, and a lot of times people like the idea of finding a group to be against, and everyone's not against it, but there's some people who don't understand it who may be.
I think what you really have to talk about with like police intervention is assault cases, because as an RA, if I see something happening that's physical or not so much verbal, but like physical assault, I have to report it to pro staff, and they will most likely report it to the police. I think in terms of justice, that makes me feel a lot better about reporting it because I know that like something's going to be done. It's not like if I see a student push another student who they're dating down the stairs. If I see that happen, I would never not report that. It's only fair that I take that to the highest possible authority because that is so absolutely morally wrong.
Yeah, but it's up to the kid to report it, not campus life. I've been in that situation. Campus life can't do anything unless the person
But
is in the
don't
situation.
you, as an RA, aren't you obligated to report it?
You report it to campus life. Campus life deals with it and says, do you want to press charges? And if they say no, it doesn't go to the police.
Here's the thing, with justice, it's also personal. So if you don't give people a right to say, no, I don't want to press charges, then that's injustice because that's not fair to them. So I think that giving people the choice after campus life knows about it to then say, I want to take legal action or not, giving them the choice to say no, I think then heightens the justice because that means that it's not someone else deciding for your own situation, like what the outcome should be. The fact that personal choice comes into it makes it a less unjust system.
You make a really good point. You're right. I'm sure that not all incidents are reported, unfortunately. I think that every campus struggles with trying to empower our community and the members of our community to communicate with each other regarding issues in the residence halls or on campus, and also encouraging our students to feel like they can report at any time or intervene. Another topic I'm sure that has come up in your class, certainly does across campuses across the country, is bystander intervention and saying something when you see someone being mistreated or something that's wrong, feeling empowered to get involved. And that's certainly something that I think that not just our student affairs, but student affairs on every campus is really working towards empowering our students to be active participants in that way. But also trying to create a campus climate where students feel comfortable and safe to report any and all incidents that they've experienced or that they know of.
Few things. I'd like for them to read, go online, look up EOF and see what the history of EOF is, how we got started, and understand that it was not put in place to hurt people but to help people and to again level the playing field. The other part is we never turn a student away. The funding part I can't control. The funding part you get from the state is just over $1,000 a semester. It's not a lot of money. That is dictated by the state. But as far as service is concerned, we service anyone who comes in. So don't get upset about things you don't understand. A lot of times, anger and resentment is because of a lack of understanding. So if you want to be upset, if you want to have information, ask the questions rather than making assumptions.
All right, it's a strong statement. Thank you for your time, Ms. Hall.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.